of the kickoff of the NFL season. It starts on Thursday. Michael McQuaid, Colin Cronin, Mark Cockerell is back, and we are absolutely delighted to welcome in Henry Hodgson, who now is the general manager of NFL UK. Henry, it's been an interesting off season for everyone. It's been a massive off season for you. You're back in London. First off, welcome to the show. And how have you been the last few months? Because I know you've been very, very busy and you've traveled and moved around the world.
I've been good. It's great to see you guys. Thank you for having me back again. But yeah, you're right. I have recently moved back from where I was in living in California for the last 12 years and working as part of the NFL media group in Los Angeles, but in my previous role, which was leading the international marketing team. And I'm now back in the UK in a new position as general manager of NFL UK. So I'm about a month into being back here, or just over a month, I think, and thoroughly enjoying, first of all, being back in the UK. It's been really nice to be home, especially the weather seems to have cooperated, and I've definitely had, I think, probably more than I could have expected in terms of Californian-like sunshine. But I think even more than that, especially exciting to be back in the UK and flat out now as we get close to kickoff and very close to the games in London as well. But it's been, as you said, busy few months, but also really exciting for me.
Yeah, and I suppose we figured you'd be pretty busy as you settled into the new role, but it has been busy for us as well, and we've had the good opportunity to have a chat to some of the people who will be joining you in London. Mickey Loomis, Mark Murphy, Joe Shinn, and Kevin O'Connell are all very excited about coming to London. We're sure Russell Wilson and Doug Peterson are as well. Just haven't had the chance to talk to them. They're more than welcome on. But in terms of the games this year, Henry, it's a pretty exciting array of fixtures.
It really is, and congrats again to you guys. I see every week the cast of characters you're pulling in. I'm kind of surprised that you've invited me back based on all the illustrious names you've had through the show the last few weeks. But no, sorry, to answer your question, you're absolutely right. There's some really exciting games this year, and I think we've in previous years in the UK obviously had teams that have attracted fan bases, but I think this time around, between all the 6 clubs that are coming to London this year, you're really looking at teams that are pulling in a lot of fans, and there's a ton of excitement around it, and especially finally getting the Packers and kind of completing the set, if you like, is exciting. But I think frankly all 6 of the clubs are we're thrilled to be having them in the UK.
And I suppose, Henry, just alongside obviously the games are the showpiece, but I know that, when we spoke to you at the press conference in terms of the international growth, like the constant evolution of the sport, but there was a lot of talk around kind of the football development initiatives, and we've seen some of that take place over the last couple of months in expanding the international player pathway, NFL Africa and things like that. Are there more things that we can look forward to in the future?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I think, certainly, well, I guess we have to pull the curtain back on when we're recording this, but, hoping in the next few hours to have confirmed the players from this year's International Player Pathway program that either will be making practice squads, or even, I think there's a really good chance for a couple of them above and beyond what we've seen in previous years to actually make NFL rosters, which is really exciting. So hopefully some news to be made there. We're about a month out now from both the London games, but then between the 2 London games, a second international player combine that will be taking place at Tottenham in the week between the 2 games at Tottenham. And so I think what's exciting there is you're going to be seeing, again, the best kind of players from around the world, with the opportunity looking to become part of that program in the future. Some of those guys are going to be players that we found in Africa as part of the NFL Africa program. Earlier this summer, I was lucky enough to be part of an NFL trip that went to Ghana, but which brought in players really from across Africa, Nigeria, South Africa, really across West Africa as well, West African countries. And the talent on display was incredible. So I think you're going to see a bunch of those players as part of the player pathway program, as well as the best from Latin America and Europe and Asia and all over the world, which will be exciting, and I think will give us the opportunity to expand that program. I think the NFL Academy is, going from strength to strength. From a football development standpoint, we've relaunched the academy, if you like, at Loughborough, where it's going to be really entwined with all of the elite sport that's based at Loughborough, and so you're going to hopefully, that's a slower burn, but hopefully some players that you're going to see playing college football, maybe playing college football in Ireland in the future. That would be, I think that's an exciting program that we're looking to expand on. There's more kids playing flag football across the UK than ever before, and we're really working hard to expand that really across the world, honestly. And I think you will have heard a little bit about plans for flag to hopefully be in the Olympics in Los Angeles in 2028. So a lot of work being done to grow how we get people playing football, I suppose, from the bottom, young age group that are playing flag all the way up to the elite level of NFL Academy, and then the International Player Pathway Program as well, with the ultimate goal being, the understanding that the more people play the sport, the more they become fans, and then the more players that are international, the more we grow, the fan base from people in the UK, Ireland, wherever in the world, seeing people who they can relate to, who grew up in the same places as them playing in the NFL. It makes it, the aspirational piece, I guess, for kids is there, but then also for just general sports fans, it gives you someone to root for.
Yeah, and Henry, it's Notre Dame versus Navy next year. So if they want to target the college football game in Dublin, that's the one to highlight. Also, at the time of recording, we haven't yet had the full 53-man cut down, so we may indeed have an Irishman in the NFL next year with James McCall, very much in a prime position for the Jags. So getting him over to London as well would be great.
Yeah.
But taking on that theme a little bit, what you're saying about some of the amazing developments, because there's a great line. It's the thing that Newton, Oasis, and English £2 coin share in common. If I can see further than you, it's because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. And in many respects, Henry, you're stepping in some big shoes. I mean, you go back to 2007, the first NFL game in the UK. Who would have imagined where we now stand 15 years later? And I don't want to put pressure on you. I'm sure you got enough of that at the moment.
I think it feels like you're about to.
Well, I'm just wondering. I mean, like, you're standing on those shoulders, and now you can look a little bit further down down the distance. And I know you're talking about the IPP, and you're talking about the academies and things like that. But what excites you, or what might be in the offing in terms of the UK market? Obviously, the intervention, obviously the home market agreements as well, with various teams, 6 teams having the UK as a market. What gets you excited and you can envisage in 5-10 years time maybe being in place for the NFL in Europe, but in the UK specifically, obviously?
Yeah, Mark, I mean, I'm smart enough not to make guarantees here, but I think what I will do is tell you, I actually, you stumbled across that, or maybe not, you were precisely on it. I think that home marketing agreements, and that's not something that really sort of trips off the tongue, but the fact that clubs are willing themselves to make an investment in growing their fan base here, I think is the thing that can be a difference maker for us, amongst other things, and amongst other sort of opportunities we'll have on the media front and in different areas of football development, etc. But I really do think the game changer will be as clubs themselves see the opportunity. For each of you guys, maybe we talked about them before, but each of you didn't fall in love with the NFL. You fell in love probably with a player, with a team, and that led you to the love that you have of the NFL. And so, from us, trying to market the NFL as a whole is obviously, we're helped in a lot of ways with the way that the NFL is set up versus maybe some other sports. But at the same time, the 6 teams that are really focused on growing their fan base here, I think gives us an enormous opportunity. And I think it's fair to say that there's probably some other clubs either who are already participating in that program in other parts of the world, or who aren't yet participating, who are going to look and see, what's that growth look like over a year, 2 years, whatever, and also jump into this opportunity. I think those are the ones that are going to help us the most. And we're working really very actively with those teams to see, okay, how do you plug into some of the things we're already doing in terms of games, in terms of football programs, in terms of media, et cetera, et cetera. And, the benchmark, really, the blueprint's been set by the Jags, right? They've got to the point now where the Jags game in London this year at Wembley is actually a Jags game. It's not an NFL UK managed and run game. It's the Jags picking it up and saying, we want to bring this whole experience, the whole Jags experience to London. And so, from a fan perspective, how different is that going to look? I think what you'll see is where, the games at Tottenham, we put on those games and it's about, it's an NFL event. This is truly going to be a Jags event. So you're going to get that great Jags experience and that great atmosphere that they can create. And obviously with the Jags fans in the UK, that's, as well as other NFL fans, that's going to be a different and a really good opportunity for them to show themselves off. And I hope we'll get to that point with other clubs, whether it's in the UK or elsewhere in the world.
Yeah, and one of the key pillars this week, Henry, has been the news from TalkSport and the 49ers obviously making use of that marketing agreement. And if you're in Northern Ireland, you can listen to a minimum of 11 Niners games on DAB. If you're in the Republic, you can listen on your Wi-Fi. So it's a win-win for everyone. Going on the ITV deal, Henry, it's fantastic for people here because it gives people the opportunity now, hopefully, to watch it on Virgin Media Television, which is probably one of the largest commercial broadcasters in Ireland, and to even have a telecast of the Super Bowl in Arizona, I think that's the first time since the early 1990s that's even going to be the case in Ireland. We've worked with Virgin before, and I have to say it's exciting to see this, and it's just getting bigger and bigger every year.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's definitely the case. We want to make, obviously, the sport as accessible as possible. And so some of that is how do we find those types of opportunities on TV? And then, as we look at the age groups that we're trying to grow with, and that's specifically, more than likely going to be with a younger audience. 12 to 24-year-olds are probably still making up their mind about what sports or other things they're into. And so for us, that makes sense to be targeting those age groups. And therefore, we know that there are platforms that the NFL is not necessarily that big on now that we need to be more present on and more accessible to 12 to 24-year-old fans or sports fans, let's say, from the UK, so that they can see the NFL, find out a bit more about it, and make their minds up about whether this is a sport or a thing that they're going to be interested in.
Henry, I suppose for my Broncos, big off season of change, new quarterback, new owners, and a new team president, a man you would be somewhat familiar with. So I suppose on behalf of Broncos fans on both sides of the Atlantic, what kind of person is Damani Leach, our new president of the Broncos?
Damani, I mean, a person, he's an outstanding person. He's a person that anyone would like to meet and spend time with. And he's a terrific human being, but I think also as a leader, I can tell you, having had him as my boss for the last few years, a fantastic boss and someone who will, I have no doubt, lead the Broncos to bigger and better things. I think from a fan's perspective, you look at ultimately you look at how many trophies does he bring, how many rings does he bring to the team, and obviously that's part of, I guess, of how a team president gets measured. But I think also what the Broncos are going to get above and beyond that is someone who really understands kind of the business of the NFL, and I think will make the Broncos kind of a incredibly well run team. With great leadership. And so, yeah, I mean, I would, if I was a Broncos fan, I know it's not the most exciting signing probably of your off season when you've just got Russell Wilson in as your quarterback, but I would be as excited just from the standpoint of just having a great human being, great person, and a great leader in the building.
Henry, I mean, you mentioned, I just wanted to look back, the Jags experience is going to be interesting for a Broncos fan going to join it. So, wouldn't want to be a Broncos fan, lads, for that one. But you made a great point, which is we all fell in love with the team. We all fell in love with a player. everyone who loves the NFL, yeah, and some people love the generality. I mean, I think even in the playoffs, everyone loves it, even if your team's no longer involved. But you're no different in that regard. I mean, you fell in love with the team. I appreciate you're going to be a bit more objective, and you have been working for the NFL. But we always torture Neil Reynolds when he comes on the show as well. And you are, if I remember correctly, a Dolphins fan. So I've got to ask you, new head coach, new experience for the Dolphins. I mean, to mix mythologies, is he going to bring you to Valhalla or is he going to bring you back to Hades once again?
I'm excited about everything about the Dolphins this year, and I can honestly say, like, I'm more excited about the Dolphins season than I've, team set up, roster, etc. Than I've been for a long time. I think Mike McDaniel feels like a breath of fresh air. I think obviously the signing of Tyreek Hill is helpful. I think they've made some smart signings, and I'm a Tua believer. So we'll see what goes down. But no, I couldn't be. I mean, I'm always everyone at this time of year, and that's why the NFL. That's why we love the NFL, and that's why the NFL is such a great sport. Is I think everyone goes into the season feeling nothing other than hoping that this is our season. But I think especially this year, I'm super excited about the Dolphins. I think they're going to be really fun to watch, and that hasn't always been the case. I can tell you as a fan of that team.
I have to say, as a big Broncos fan personally, and a guy that turned up to LA on the Friday night of Super Bowl, lost and missed the press conference with the Manny, I'm absolutely gutted. Best of luck to him, though. I'm buzzing about it. Final round of questions, Henry. I have to ask you, man. Like all of us lads were obviously in Dublin last weekend. I'm not sure if you've seen much of the college game. It was a bit like you were walking around the stadium, maybe even 3 or 4 hours before kickoff, and it's in quite a rural area, and it was a bit like a mini London game. Like there was I think somebody done a thing on Twitter where they got every NFL team, and it was almost like that. Really? There, and the atmosphere was fantastic. But it's interesting to see sort of different variations of a similar international event, and college football it's quite different. I mean, I was in the training. Yeah. Training last Thursday, and they were singing and stuff, but it was great crack, as we said.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't surprise me at all. Look, I fundamentally believe if we picked up an NFL game, regular season game, and said we're going to play it in Ireland, it would sell out as quickly as it does everywhere else. If we said we're going to play it in France or Spain or wherever, I really believe that the fandom is there, and some combination of the local fans being able to have the first opportunity to see a game in their market, plus the people who travel from all over Europe for the game, plus the fans from the US who I'm sure travel to Ireland and I know travel obviously to the UK and other places, although not in as big a numbers as I think people assume, would all come and would fill those stadiums. And that's really what we've seen in Germany. Going back to the press conference you guys referenced, the main reason for that press conference was to announce the plan for Germany and for the game in Munich this season. And the demand, it doesn't surprise me in any way, but the demand for that game has been astonishing. So, there are NFL fans, there are American football fans all over the world, all over Europe, in Ireland, in the UK, and Germany, wherever, and they're going to show up because they love to come to our games. They love to see that atmosphere. They want to be a part of it, and it's that's why I think when you speak to the teams who come over and play in the UK or anywhere else, when you speak to the players, they're like, we didn't really know what to expect, and when we saw it, it was bigger and more exciting, and it has a sort of playoff atmosphere. So doesn't surprise me at all that you guys said that. I'm only sad that I didn't make it this year, but it was partly because I'm still in the process of moving. But Notre Dame versus Navy seems like a good opportunity for next summer, so maybe I will. I'll see if I can sneak over.
Well, we'll have a couple of Guinness waiting for you for that, Henry. If I can allude back to because there's a piece 6 years ago where you were talking to Mike Silver at the time about a new generation of NFL head coaches at that time, and I'm thinking now, right? Mike McDaniel is like a totally new generation of NFL head coach, but at the same time as Mike McDaniel's existing in the league, you've Dan Campbell up with the Lions, and I suppose. What I'm wondering is, like, we see incredible diversity in the league, right? And playing staff, coaching staff, a little bit on ownership, executives, even amongst the fans. You talked earlier the way in which maybe younger fans consume media. I suppose is the league, and it's a very big and broad and maybe philosophical question, but is the league realizing the value of diversity?
Yeah, I mean, I think the league. I don't think it's realizing. I think the league knows, and I know that's sort of words, but the difference is that I guess it's not like this is suddenly being revealed. I think there's just some of these things take time for those opportunities to really come to life. But I don't think that this is sort of new news to the NFL. I think you're just beginning to see much more of it actually sort of come to fruition, if you like. It's absolutely integral to everything we do, and a diversity of thinking and ideas is incredibly important. And we had the opportunity a few weeks ago. We brought together all of the international marketing teams, and Kevin Demoff was one of the speakers that we managed to get to come in to speak to us. And for those that don't know, Kevin is the LA Rams president. And we talked to him about what it was to build a championship culture across his Rams team. And, part of that obviously actually materialized on the field, but part of it is about, a really diverse staff that he's built as the Rams arrived in LA with kind of a fresh slate. And his response to us was probably, maybe oversharing here, but he wanted to bring in people from outside of sports because he wanted diverse thinking, and that is included in kind of diversity as a whole, because otherwise you're kind of set with the same group of ideas and strategies, whatever, for doing the things that he as a team president wants to do. Or you can bring in, this entirely new set of ideas and thinking and fresh thought and different perspectives. And I think that's what is included in diversity is diversity of people, diversity of cultures, and then especially diversity of thinking. And it's certainly, as I look at the role that I'm in now, it's something that I'm really kind of taking away with me a lot as well. Is we've got a fantastic team in the UK, and there's been a lot of momentum, and as you say, standing on the shoulders of giants. But for that next set of where does the NFL go from here in the UK, or frankly Europe, internationally, in the US too, we have to start thinking about, okay, well, who's coming with something entirely new. And I think probably the answer is, from, in our case, maybe a lot of entertainment industries or others where things are being done differently, and problems, challenges, opportunities are being tackled slightly differently. So I think that diversity important across the board, and I understand your point. It's brought up lots of new opportunities for people who are incredibly deserving and incredibly smart, and maybe their voices wouldn't have been heard before. But I think as much as anything else, it's about opening the pipeline of people who could potentially, have the opportunity to work in the NFL in some way or other, whether that's in coaching and the names you mentioned before, or all the way up to commissioner. You'd hope that would be open across the board.
Henry, you talk about diversity of thought, and I can't let it go. I think Michael McQuaid is the first person that's ever thought that Bulls Bridge is a very rural part of Ireland. So I'll just leave that said
really?
There in relation to it. But my actually, you mentioned Kevin Demoff, and obviously the approach he's taken in relation to investing in diversity has inherently paid off. We are talking about the Super Bowl winners hoping to reclaim their title. Obviously, as an LA native, or not native, sorry, as living in LA, LA resident last year, with the hometown Rams winning, that must have been an amazing experience. I am tempted to ask you, what's the thing you're looking forward to most for the 23 season? Because we are sitting on the precipice of it. But I think you'll say the London games. So let me flip the question slightly differently. Having just seen the last Super Bowl, what or who or how do you think it's all going to play out, where we're going to be when we come to February 2023, that's what I want to say, in Glendale, Arizona? who's sitting there, or what would you be looking forward to be sitting there in 2023?
Well, I just on your last question, I said I'm not going to make any guarantees, and now you're trying to tempt me into another one.
Trying to lure it out of you, Henry, eventually.
I'll be looking forward to an ITV and Sky televised Super Bowl, and as Michael said, one that will be seen for the first time on an Irish TV channel. No, I think I won't cop out. I mean, look, the NFL season as a whole, I'm super excited. We all get starved for actual football as opposed to everything we talk about, which is still exciting throughout the off season. So I think I'm just excited to have it back, and especially excited, as you mentioned, for the London games. I mean, first of all, we went from that kind of weird thing where no team had ever played in a home Super Bowl to having that happen in back-to-back years. So, is that something that maybe could lightning strike thrice? And the Cardinals, I don't necessarily see that happening. I'll tell you what, I don't know why I keep thinking this, but I've thought it for a while. And I'm a kind of in the years when the Dolphins haven't been as exciting to watch, as I mentioned, I've slowly but surely fallen in love with the Chargers. As a kind of, a team that I just enjoy watching. And it goes back to, I love Phillip Rivers is my favorite player of the last sort of 15, 20 years. LT I loved watching. But every year they're not quite there, and injuries get them or something. So it's not the hottest Super Bowl pick, but I really feel like this could be the Chargers year, and mostly because I think people aren't talking about them quite as much as they have been. So maybe this is the time that it happens. But what do I know? If you're looking for a prediction, that's as close as you're going to get to from me.
Yeah, we've a prediction show, Mark and Colin, on Wednesday this week, and they may or may not be
give me a sneak preview. What do you think? Like, can you guys tell me, something that you think is going to happen? It doesn't have to be your Super Bowl prediction, but what's your one prediction from each of you, very quickly, and not to turn it all on you, but that you guys each think will happen this year?
LA, and I think Brady might not play the full season. Just putting it out.
I think the Eagles, especially, obviously they're recording, making moves at safety. I think their roster is stacked. I think they're underestimated, because I think people underestimate Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is, if not an elite QB, I think he's a very talented young QB who's still learning. I think the team have done, in Nick Sirianni, Howie have done a great job building that roster around him. I think the Eagles are going to make a deep playoff run.
Well, even after the 48-7 preseason whipping they took from the Dolphins last weekend. I don't know if that was actually the score, but it was something like that.
Jordan Mailata will be there or thereabouts for the regular season.
I'm kidding. I don't actually think the preseason games mean a whole lot for their season's predictions.
Broncos missed the playoffs, Emery. My prediction in relation to it.
You're just trying to get a reaction now. That's
pretty much. But no, in all seriousness, this is probably the first season where the AFC is a noticeably stronger than the NFC. Mm-hmm. We're going to see a much more competitive AFC playoff schedule than with the NFC. I don't think that's shattering anybody's illusions, but that has not always been the case, especially after the last while, and especially so soon after the massive retirements of Manning and Roethlisberger and Brady moving across. The AFC's dominant again. It's kind of very strange. Yeah. But one of the young QBs makes the Super Bowl. So a Burrow again, or I was going to say a Herbert, but maybe that's kind of what you're alluding to. I won't say Trevor Lawrence. That might be pushing it a bit too far.
You can say
one
two
of the young QBs breaks through. I'll give you the fact it'd be nice to see the Dolphins back there, because it's 84 since the last time they got there, Henry. So it'd be nice that they can find their way there again. It'd be good.
Thank you for your predictions. I apologize for making you do that, especially preempting your own show later in the week.
Oh, it's fine. Don't worry. It's grand. It's 100%. But Henry, it's hard to believe, because it feels like 5 minutes ago that me and Mark were lost in the compound of SoFi Stadium. We couldn't get out. So it's mad that we're 7 months down the line here. And Henry, obviously, thanks many for coming on, man. At NFL UK Hank, the NFL returns this Thursday night. Bills Rams, Sky Sports this season, 2 games on ITV, as well as the Super Bowl highlight show, and all of that's on Virgin Media and the Republic as well. So it's probably the biggest season
as
ever
well as
for
a
fans in
weekly
Ireland.
show on the same channel. So don't look out for that as well, Friday nights.
It should be great. I'm looking forward to I think it's going to give people, especially people in the Republic, maybe younger people that have not seen it before, the chance to watch it for the first time. So thank you for all you're doing, Henry, and thank you for all the league is doing to help fans here, and enjoy the season. And I think the Dolphins could do better this year than certain teams in your division. So thanks a million, man.
Thank you. And again, I know I've said it before, but thank you for all you guys do. You're doing a great job in helping us grow the sport in Ireland and frankly everywhere. And congratulations again on the caliber of guests. I think this is probably my last appearance, and you guys will be, I'm sure, pulling in even bigger names as we go through the next 12 months and beyond. So say hi to me on your way up.